You know, this is a great crowd tonight, and we thought with all the people here that we would need a little extra law enforcement, a little bit of extra protection. As a matter of fact, you may have noticed that we do have some extra security here tonight with the deputy. Isn't that true, Deputy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm right here.
Would you like to say a few words?
Huh?
Would you like to say a few words?
What, you want me to talk?
Sure.
Oh, boy. I didn't know I was going to get to talk. Oh, this is big. I appreciate it, Goober. Give old Goober a round of applause. Folks, I didn't know that I was going to be, oh boy, oh, talking out here tonight. Oh boy, I get so nervous out in front of a big crowd of people like this. I think it stems from the fact that I had an uncle one time. He was standing out on a stage like that one back there, out in front of a big crowd of people. And he slipped, and he fell down through a hole in the middle of the stage. We all believe he'd have broke both of his legs if it hadn't been for that rope around his neck. See, honey, rope around his neck, that's the punchline right there. She's a nice girl. She's just a little slow on the uptake. Now, I'm really happy to be here with y'all tonight. I'll tell you the truth. I needed some smiles in my life. I got some terrible news from over in Mayberry last week. A buddy of mine worked over there at the paint factory in Mayberry, and they sent me a letter, and they said my buddy was over there working at the paint factory, and he was climbing up this ladder over there, and he got to the top rung of the ladder, and somehow he slipped, and he fell head first off of that ladder down into a big old vat full of varnish. He couldn't swim. He drowned it in that varnish, and the letter that they sent me said that it was a terrible death, but it was a beautiful finish. You got it. You got it. Now, folks, normally when I speak out in a crowd like this, somebody will usually ask me how I got into the lawman game. I appreciate you thinking of that, buddy. Well, it goes like this, see. Me and Thelma Lou, we were sitting over at the Snappy Lunch eating a pork chop sandwich. She says to me, she says, Barney, why don't you go over and talk to Andy and see if he'll let you be his deputy? I says, all right. So I went over there, and I says, Ange, how's about me being your deputy? He says, Barney, that'd be fine. He says, but first, you got to pass a test. I says, Andy, what kind of a test is it? He says, oh, it's simple. He says, it's only got one question. I says, what's that? He says, the question is, who shot Abraham Lincoln? I says, Andy, could I have overnight to think about it? He says, yeah, go on home and think about it. So that next night, me and Thelma Lou, we're sitting back over there at the Snappy Lunch eating another pork chop sandwich, and she says to me, she says, Barney, did you get that job as a deputy? I says, yeah, I think so. Andy's already got me working on a murder case. Stand up, everybody. Stand up, yeah, stand up. Don't it do your heart good to see Opie all growed up? Proud of that boy. I am proud of you. God bless you. Proud of that boy. Of course, that's not Opie, and I appreciate it, buddy. But y'all remember that little red-headed boy, right? Y'all remember that little red-headed boy, Opie Taylor? You know, he's smart little boy. And you know, even them smart little boys, they can get in trouble sometimes, can't they? You may know that more than anybody. Well, Opie was no exception. Matter of fact, I'll give you an example. Little Opie and Andy was sitting in church one Sunday morning, and old Andy had given little Opie a $1 bill to put out in the offering plate there during the church service. And little Opie had that $1 bill all balled up in his hand. And about halfway through the church service, here come that offering plate right through the pew. Well, little Opie took it and he passed it right over to Aunt B, and off it went. He still had that $1 bill balled up in his hand. And when that church service was over, little Opie fished his way through the crowd there to where our preacher was standing, Reverend Tucker. He took old Reverend Tucker's hand and laid that crumpled up $1 bill out in it. Reverend Tucker looked at it. He says, "Why, Opie?" That's the way he talks. He says, "Why, Opie?" He says, "You know, I appreciate that." He says, "But tell me something." He says, "Didn't that offering plate come through your pew?" About halfway through the church service. Like that. Little Opie looked up at him. He says, "Yeah, preacher, it did." He says, "But I wanted to put that $1 bill right in your hand because my pa says you're the poorest preacher we ever had." That is precocious, ain't it, honey? Folks, I am so glad to be here with you all tonight. I'm telling you the truth. I just love to talk about Mayberry and all the goings-on down there. Mayberry's a wonderful town. We're growing by leaps and bounds, just like every little town across the country. And now I will tell you, Mayberry, you know, it's had the same population for the last 54 years. 963 people. Never has changed. 963 people. Now, Goober told me, he said he knew why it had stayed at 963. He said, "I know." He says, "I know why it stayed at 963 people." He said, "It's because every time some woman has a young'un, some feller leaves town." That may be one of the Darling boys. I don't know. But I'll tell you, Goober did tell me a story about we are growing down there. And he said he was sitting over at the Snappy Lunch one day. And we're growing. We're becoming a bigger town. He said he was sitting there eating one of them big pork chop sandwiches. And he said he looked across the aisle over there and said this man and this woman was sitting over there in a booth. And they was both eating a pork chop sandwich. And old Goober said he got to staring at them right hard. And he said all of a sudden that man over in the booth slid right out of his seat right down into the floor. Well, Juanita, the waitress over there, you remember her? She come running over there and she tapped that woman on the shoulder and she says to her, she says, "Ma'am," she says, "your husband just slid down in the floor." Like that. Said that woman looked up at her and said, "My husband just come through the front door." We are growing. I'll tell you the truth. We've got so many people in Mayberry that, you know, I don't know whether you know all of them or not. You know, we know Goober and we know Opie and we know Gomer. But there's stand up there, buddy. Yeah, just, good Lord. I didn't realize you was that big, buddy. Yeah, that's what I was looking for right there, brother. Yeah, that is the widest part I have ever seen in my life. I'm telling you the truth. How many of y'all in this room remember a feller in Mayberry by the name of Mr. Schwump? Any of you? Just calm down, buddy. Calm down. Don't worry, I ain't messing anything up here. They said he used to use Head and Shoulders, now he uses Mop and Glow. But Mr. Schwump, he lived down there in Mayberry. And you're just an example here, okay? Because you're not Mr. Schwump, but you fit the bill. But Mr. Schwump, he had to wear, you know what I'm talking about, buddy. He had to wear one of them there, toupee. Thank you, honey. Well, he lost his toupee. And he had to order one out of a catalog. Well, friends, it come in about 2 weeks. It's all wrapped up in this box with brown paper all around it. And oh, Mr. Schwump was so excited about that thing. He tore that brown paper off that box, and he looked at the top of it. It said 100% cat hair toupee. Well, he took the lid off that box. And he took that cat hair toupee out of, oh, didn't mean to spit on you there, buddy. He took that cat hair toupee out of that box and he laid it right down there on his head. You kind of like that part, don't you, buddy? I think he was starting to purr. I got to tell you, that old cat hair toupee looked so pretty just laying up there. But it had one little problem with it. Every time somebody rubbed his head, he'd arch his back. That's it, buddy. You're out of the water here. Would y'all give him a nice round of applause? Thank you, buddy. The bigger they are, the bigger they are. God bless you. What a fine, fine feller. I appreciate it, buddy. Of course, now that's not Mr. Schwump. But I wanted everybody to find out about Mr. Schwump because he lived there in Mayberry. And I do appreciate it. But I wanted to tell you all about Mr. Schwump because, well, he was a very important citizen in our fair town of Mayberry, North Carolina. He held a very high distinction in our town. Mr. Schwump was the oldest living resident of Mayberry, North Carolina. He was 114 years old up until last week. That's right. Last week, real peaceful like, in his sleep, poor old Mr. Schwump. He passed away. Well, they fixed him up. And they laid him out in this box. And they got 6 of them boys over there in Mayberry that was willing to carry him way up the hill there at the end of Main Street to the cemetery. Them boys got that box with Mr. Schwump in it up on their shoulders. And up that steep hill they went. Oh, buddy, I forgot to mention something. It had rained real hard the night before, and that red dirt up there in the cemetery, it had got real wet, you know. Well, it turned to mud. Well, that boy on the front of the box with Mr. Schwump in it, his right foot hit that slick mud, and down that boy went. And when he fell, the other 5 boys lost their balance, and they dropped what they had. Now, when that box with Mr. Schwump in it hit that steep hill, just took off like a shot. When it hit Main Street, it was doing 35 miles an hour. It went all the way down the middle of Main Street there, and it hit the curb right there in front of the drugstore, jumped that curb, hit the double doors at the drugstore, and went right on in. Went all the way back through the middle of the drugstore. And when it got to the counter in the back there, Miss Ellie, that lady druggist, do you remember her? She come running out of the back room. Friends, about the same time, the lid of that box flew open. And Mr. Schwump sat straight up. Miss Ellie says to him, she says, "Can I help you?" He says, "Yeah, you got anything to stop this coughing?" Is he laughing? I did go a long way around on that one, didn't I? That's kind of rough. Folks, I want to tell you what a joy it is for me to be here tonight. It is such a joy for me to talk about Mayberry, because I don't think there's a community anywhere in the United States that's too big or too small to be kind of like Mayberry, because of all the personalities, the wonderful people that are in Mayberry. One of my favorite people in Mayberry was a feller that's just a standard old citizen, providing a service that every town provides in every town across the United States. One of my favorite people in Mayberry was a feller by the name of Floyd the Barber. Y'all remember Floyd? I loved old Floyd. You know, everybody's got their set of problems, don't they? Everybody. Floyd's biggest problem, in my opinion, was he didn't talk like the rest of us, did he? He sort of had this thing going on. He said, "Ooh, ooh." He done that a bunch, didn't he? I went over there one day to the barber shop. I hadn't seen Floyd in a while, and I said, "Floyd," I said, "how are you?" He said, "Ooh, oh, Jay, I haven't been feeling too well." I said, "My goodness, Floyd," I said, "what's the problem?" He said, oh, I've had a terrible cough for 2 weeks. I said, "Well, what have you done for it?" He said, "Well, I went over to see Miss Ellie over at the drugstore. She gave me a laxative." I said, "Did it help?" He said, "I don't know. I'm afraid to cough." So Floyd's one of my favorite characters. We all know somebody kind of like Floyd. We all know somebody kind of like Barney. We all know somebody kind of like Andy. My name is David Browning, and I live over in Bristol, Virginia. And for the last 20 years, come July 1st, I've earned a living all across the United States, bringing Mayberry to folks, hopefully in a very positive way. I was fortunate early on to meet the guy who played Barney Fife on the Andy Griffith Show, Don Knotts. I was doing an event in Nashville, Tennessee. Someone had called me and asked me to come and do one thing, give away a jar of Aunt Bee's pickles. You all remember that episode of the Andy Griffith Show? And Don Knotts happened to be there, along with about 20 other of the celebrities from the Andy Griffith Show. And I was just doing my thing in the crowd of people, kind of mingling around like I did at the tables here tonight. And on the second day, Don's wife came up to me and said, she didn't say Don wants to talk to you, she said he wants to talk to you. And my mind said, well, it's been fun. Not really. I didn't know what he wanted, but I didn't feel like he was, because I saw him enjoying what I was doing over the 2-day event. But I went into his dressing room, and he came over and sat next to me, and he said, hey, you're doing a nice job out there. He said, do you have a stand-up routine? And I said, well, so far, all I do is just improvise. And he said, well, put together about 30 minutes and call me, and the next time I come east, you can be my opening act. And I got to do that for 11 years with the guy who created the Barney Fife character. Without really having any kind of plan to do that, it was almost like a preordained destiny for me to get to meet him and then be his opening act. I certainly never expected it. And I've thought over the years, what kind of blessing was that that the good Lord placed on me to give me that great opportunity to use my natural talent to bring a beloved character like Barney Fife, or as I call him, the Mayberry Deputy, to so many people. We've averaged about 130 to 150 engagements a year for 20 years. That's a lot of people. And the people that I've enjoyed performing for most have been professional law enforcement folks. I had a dear friend over in Charlotte one time tell me, early on, he said, if you make friends within the law enforcement community, he said, you'll never have to worry about working. He said, they'll put you to work. And it's proven true for 20 years. There's a blessing in Mayberry that is very, very real. And I think that every police officer who walks the beat or patrols a community or speaks at a DARE function, no matter what it is, somewhere in their heart there's a little seed that says Mayberry. I believe that's why they got into law enforcement in the first place. I really do. Because when you watch an episode of the Andy Griffith Show, Andy Taylor, to me, was the prototype of what we all dream law enforcement could be. That officer carries a respect within him for his community and for himself that just can't be matched, can't be touched. So as I've thought about it over the years with my own life and the calling that I believe God placed upon me to do this with my talent, is that there was a time for Don Knotts to play Barney Fife on the Andy Griffith Show. And God bless him, Don is gone now. There was a time for Andy to play Andy Taylor. And the show is now 54 years old. There was a time for the guy to play Ernest T. Bass and Otis and Goober and Gomer. And that time passed. Fortunately, they have a television show preserved on film. But God also said, there's a time for this country boy from Southwest Virginia to do his rendition of the character and help keep that show alive. So what I'm saying to you tonight is that as you do your daily job in law enforcement, whatever level it may be, that it's your time. It's your time to do it. It's your time to educate yourself in every way you can to become more the professional than you've ever been in your life. I spoke with some of the dispatchers here tonight, which is an area that I'm fascinated with, the dedication that dispatchers have. We were fortunate to get to speak in front of the Mississippi statewide dispatchers meeting last year. And these are dedicated people. They take it on as a profession. And then I see that in 8 years you've more than doubled the number of calls, which is remarkable. Well, it's all part of one great package, if you will. So if everybody is doing their professional best, then you have a wonderful evening like this to honor folks, to say, job well done. But in the end, we have to look at ourselves and say, job well done. Or we have to say, hey, I need to improve. I need to do a little more study. I need to make myself better. So as I've been doing this for 20 years, and my wife could tell you, I moan and pine and how can I do this better as I get older? You know, Don Knotts was only 35 when he played the Barney Fife character. I ain't 35. But I still love to be in front of a group of folks. And I love to tell them that with these Mayberry ideals and Mayberry thoughts in mind, that I respect what they do. I want to encourage them to do the best that they possibly can do in every situation. Because in the end, It's not what the masses say. It's what you say. Did I do it? Did I not do it? And you're the only one who really knows. I want to close with a little poem that I learned from a World War II veteran back in a little town called Irwin, Tennessee. A wonderful gentleman. After I had performed, he stood up and he said, "I want to talk." And he recited this very brief poem. And I asked him if I could have a copy, and he gave it to me. It's an anonymous poem. I've shared it with thousands of people. It's called Pathways. And as we think about Mayberry and we think about an awards evening like this, I think the poem is so appropriate because it reflects a lot of things. It reflects what impressions we leave on other people and what impressions do they leave on us. And we pray, of course, that they're positive in all situations. So I'll close, and I hope you'll think about that World War II veteran. I'll close with Pathways. Now, when the evening shades has fallen at the close of the day, oh, and I'm just sitting around passing the time away, there's a thought that comes to cheer me if I'm feeling kind of blue. Sort of little prayer of gratitude for crossing paths with you. Now, I never had the habit of spilling a lot of bluff or indulging in mushiness and sentimental stuff, but if I like folks, I tell them. Up and tell them now instead of writing funny epitaphs about them when they're dead. So I'm sending you this message just because I want to say that I'm glad the Lord arranged it so that you could pass my way. Just to hear your voice and see you made my sky a shade more blue. I'm just a bit more blessed since crossing paths with you. God bless each and every one of you. Thanks for having me here tonight. I appreciate it. Oh, that was big.
First award of the evening is a very special award. For those of you who do not know, one of our officers and his wife were told by doctors that their 2-year-old daughter had cancer. Well, that is over, and that cancer has been beaten. It has been requested that a special award be presented to Princess Riley. So would Corporal Kevin Huey and his wife Bridget and Princess Riley Huey please come forward? Let it be proclaimed that on this 8th day of April, 2014, this special commendation is hereby declared by the Magistrate General of the Halls of Justice. Whereas Princess Riley Huey, daughter of Kevin and Bridget Huey, has so courageously fought an evil villain. Whereas Princess Riley Huey has gone above and beyond the call of duty and has defeated that evil villain. Whereas Princess Riley Huey has been an inspiration and hero to everyone she meets. Whereas Princess Riley Huey is hereby promoted to the rank of Superhero First Class of the Justice League. Let it be known that superheroes from near and far, from Never Never Land to Disneyland, shall stand in honor of their new superhero. This proclamation is hereby made by the Magistrate General of the halls of justice and witnessed this 8th day of April 2014 by Superman and Captain America. The next award of the evening will be given by the Shawnee Police Foundation Chairman Ken Stafford.
In 2009, the Police Foundation created an award to recognize a board member's outstanding service to the foundation. The first recipient of that award went to Mr. S.D. Hackett. Mr. Hackett was one of the original founders of the foundation and donated countless hours of his time making it the success that it is. Sadly, in 2012, Mr. Hackett passed away. The board agreed last year to rename the award the S.D. Hackett Board Member of the Year Award, so the love and dedication of Mr. Hackett had for the foundation will always be remembered. This year's recipient of the award goes to an individual that has donated a tremendous amount of time. He can always be counted on to get the job done, and always goes the extra mile. I'm very happy to present this year's Shawnee Police Foundation S.D. Hackett Board Member of the Year Award to Mr. Chris Thomas. This next award is a Special Appreciation Award. It goes to an organization that is a huge supporter of the Shawnee Police Foundation. They help us in so many different ways. Not only do they allow us to use their facility for our monthly board meetings, but they are always there to help in whatever capacity we need. It is truly my pleasure to present this award of appreciation to the Shawnee Chamber of Commerce and Ms. Nancy Keith.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate it very much. Now for the awards of the evening. Would Mr. Barry Bornman please come forward? This letter of appreciation is presented to Mr. Barry Bornman for his invaluable assistance to the Shawnee Police Department. Mr. Bornman has gone above and beyond what his job requires by helping department members in procuring much-needed equipment. His assistance in instructing them on how to get onto government sites to reserve equipment and then to get the equipment approved expeditiously has been greatly appreciated. Mr. Bornman's willingness to help the Shawnee Police Department has allowed it to obtain numerous weapons, vehicles, tools, storage containers, and a mobile command post. In doing so, he has saved the citizens of Shawnee a great deal of money, as all of these items have been purchased at a fraction of their original cost. For outstanding service and for bringing favorable recognition to himself and the Shawnee Police Department, the Shawnee Police Department is proud to present the letter of appreciation to Mr. Barry Bornman. Would Miss Cindy Donnelly come forward, please? This letter of appreciation is presented to Miss Cindy Donnelly for her invaluable assistance to the Shawnee Police Department. Ms. Donnelly is our Council on Law Enforcement Education and Training, CLEAT, liaison for the Basic Police Academy entrance. Ms. Donnelly reserves rooms, handles cadet paperwork and packets, and notifies the department of any issues that need correction. Her willingness to help goes above and beyond what she is required to do, or at least this is how she makes us feel. Her friendly, helpful voice on the phone or smile in person makes us feel as though we are extra special in her eyes. for outstanding service and for bringing favorable recognition to herself and the Shawnee Police Department. The Shawnee Police Department is proud to present this letter of appreciation to Ms. Cindy Donnelly. Would Officers Darren Briley, Cody Gibson, and Michael Myers come forward? On April 29, 2013, Shawnee officers were advised by the 911 dispatchers that there had just been a home invasion in the area of the 500 block of North Bell. In addition, officers were advised that this incident involved a firearm. Officer Michael Myers had received the lead call, and Officer Darren Briley was sent as a backup officer. As Officer Briley was approaching the area of the scene, he noticed a black SUV matching the description of the suspect vehicle. Officer Briley noticed that there was no other traffic leaving the area and was just advised by 911 dispatchers that a female was driving the fleeing vehicle. Knowing that there was a female driver in the black SUV that he had just observed, he turned around and quickly caught up to the vehicle. Before he got to it, however, the two rear passengers exited the vehicle and ran away. Officer Briley conducted a felony traffic stop and secured the driver and front passenger. Officer Cody Gibson, who had also responded to the area to assist, was able to apprehend one of the fleeing suspects. It was quickly discovered that a loaded sawed-off shotgun and a loaded .357 were located in the black SUV. Officer Myers put together the story with the victims and was able to disseminate information assisting with the investigation. For outstanding teamwork and professionalism, 3 dangerous individuals were immediately taken off the street. For bringing favorable recognition to themselves, the City of Shawnee, and the Shawnee Police Department, the Shawnee Police Foundation, and the Shawnee Police Department are proud to present this letter of commendation to Officer Darren Briley, Officer Cody Gibson, and Officer Michael Myers. And Darren, don't you go anywhere. We got a twofer night. On June 11, 2013, at approximately 1 o'clock in the morning, Officer Darren Briley was patrolling the area of Broadway and Kirk when he observed a small Dodge car traveling northbound on Broadway without any lights on. Officer Briley turned to catch up to the car, at which time he observed the car pull over. Officer Briley pulled behind the car and activated his emergency lights. Before he could get out of his patrol car, the suspect vehicle took off and a lengthy pursuit ensued. The driver went through red lights, stop signs, and parking lots. At one point, the suspect sideswiped a parked vehicle. The vehicle finally stopped in the 300 block of North Union, where the driver exited from the car and ran while holding a bag. A foot pursuit then ensued, and the suspect was finally apprehended. The suspect was identified and was a well-known subject to the Shawnee officers. The vehicle was discovered to be stolen, and the owner of the vehicle was notified and came to the scene. She not only identified her vehicle, but also identified the property in the bag the suspect ran from the car with. For outstanding service and for bringing favorable recognition to himself, the City of Shawnee and the Shawnee Police Department, the Shawnee Police Foundation, and the Shawnee Police Department are proud to present this letter of commendation to Officer Darren Briley. Would Officer Kevin Nichols please come forward? On September 28, 2013, Officer Kevin Nichols responded to a possible auto burglary in progress in the 4,000 block of Pine Ridge. A witness had reported seeing 2 individuals near a pickup truck parked at a residence. Upon his arrival, Officer Nichols made contact with a witness who pointed in the direction he last saw the suspects running, which was behind some houses. Officer Nichols quickly observed the 2 suspects running and called for them to halt. One suspect immediately came forward, while the second hid behind a tree, not showing his hands. At gunpoint, Officer Nichols ordered the second suspect, out from behind the tree, to which he finally complied after repeated commands. With the assistance of Officer Nathan Helm, who had then arrived at the scene, they secured the 2 suspects. After further investigation, it was learned that the 2 suspects that were in custody had in fact entered a vehicle in the 4,000 block of North Chapman, where they stole an iPad. It was also learned that, according to one of the suspects, they had just been looking to find stuff while going through citizens' vehicles. For outstanding service and for bringing favorable recognition to himself, the City of Shawnee and the Shawnee Police Department, the Shawnee Police Foundation, and the Shawnee Police Department are proud to present this letter of commendation to Officer Kevin Nichols. Don't go anywhere, Kevin. We got another twofer. Guys have been really cracking it up this year. Officer Jake Duggan, is he here? He might be working. On March 21st, 2013, Field Training Officer Kevin Nichols and his partner, Training Officer Jake Duggan, responded to a possible homicide in the Granada Addition. Upon their arrival, Officer Nichols used his previous contact information with the suspect by immediately locating him walking back towards the residence where the homicide had taken place. Officer Nichols and Officer Duggan quickly and safely apprehended the suspect without injury before he had time to return to the scene. It was later discovered that a firearm used in the assault was located in the residence where he was trying to return. Officer Nichols and Officer Duggan's quick response to the scene, combined with their quick thinking and decisive action, should be commended. For outstanding service and quick action, and for bringing favorable recognition to the City of Shawnee and the Shawnee Police Department, the Shawnee Police Foundation and the Shawnee Police Department are proud to present this letter of commendation to Officer Kevin Nichols and Officer Jake Duggan. Would Corporal Casey Vague please come forward? On January 7, 2013, Corporal Casey Vague responded to a motel in the 4900 block of North Harrison for a possible kidnapping. Upon his arrival, Corporal Vague was able to make contact with a reporting party who stated that he and 3 other individuals had all been held hostage in a room by a man with a machete. Corporal Vague made contact at the room and started to ask questions to those present. The 3 who were told to him to be victims would not say much, as the suspect was still in the room. A machete was found hidden, and the 3 occupants said to be victims were taken out of the room by Corporal Vague and questioned further. All 3 stated that the 4th individual had actually held a machete on them and hit one of them in the head with an iron when he asked to leave. They also said the suspect took all of the SIM cards from their cell phones so they could not call for help. One female victim was so afraid she could not write her statement. The 4th person was arrested by Corporal Vague for kidnapping and assault and battery. For outstanding service and devotion to duty and going that extra step, 3 individuals were rescued. For bringing favorable recognition to himself, the City of Shawnee and the Shawnee Police Department, the Shawnee Police Foundation, and the Shawnee Police Department are proud to present this letter of commendation to Corporal Casey Vague. Would Corporal Steve Hudgens and Officer Richard Ruiz come forward? On November 27, 2013, Corporal Steve Hudgens and Officer Richard Ruiz responded to a business in the 600 block of Kickapoo Spur. A witness reported seeing an individual near some vehicles that were at that location for service. The officers quickly responded with the knowledge that this very same business had recently been targeted with a number of auto burglaries. Corporal Hudgens and Officer Ruiz arrived at the scene and found a suspect still inside the fenced area where their vehicles were being kept. The suspect, seeing the officers, fled the area and was pursued by Officer Ruiz and Corporal Hudgens, who were ordering the suspect to stop. Corporal Hudgens then deployed his canine partner, Upier, who quickly caught the suspect and apprehended him. And he really did. For outstanding service and for bringing favorable recognition to themselves, the City of Shawnee and the Shawnee Police Department, the Shawnee Police Foundation and Shawnee Police Department are proud to present this letter of commendation to Corporal Steve Hudgens and Officer Richard Ruiz. Would Detective Charles Swantek and Detective Ronnie Wilson please come forward? Detective Sergeant Charles Swantek and Detective Sergeant Ronnie Wilson worked an alleged kidnapping case in November of 2013. The case alleged that a teen who was abducted while walking to school. The allegation created serious concern within the community and generated local and statewide media coverage. Detectives Swantek and Wilson conducted interviews with the victim, followed up on leads, arranged for an OSBI forensic artist to work with the victim in drawing sketches of the alleged suspects, and followed up on leads generated from the sketches. Detectives Swantek and Wilson were unconvinced of the victim's story and continued to question her. They were able to locate an additional witness and question him, and as a result of that interview, it was determined that the incident was fabricated. Due to the professionalism and perseverance of these detectives, this incident was solved and the community was able to rest and be assured that no kidnapped suspect was at large. For outstanding service and for bringing favorable recognition to themselves, the City of Shawnee and the Shawnee Police Department, the Shawnee Police Foundation and the Shawnee Police Department are proud to present this letter of commendation to Detective Sergeant Charles Swantek and Detective Sergeant Ronnie Wilson. To lighten the mood a bit, the next award has been named the Dag-Nabbit Award. Everyone has those moments at work where they stand there and say, Dag-Nabbit. And officers are no different. Would Corporal Kevin Huey please come forward? On May 12, 2013, at approximately 2 o'clock in the morning, Corporal Huey stopped a vehicle in the 1300 block of North Harrison. The vehicle was stopped for driving left of the center line, and when contact was made with the driver, it was suspected that he had been drinking. There was also a front seat passenger in the truck. After performing standard testing outside of the vehicle to confirm the driver was intoxicated, he was placed under arrest. But while he was about to be placed into handcuffs, it was noticed that the front seat female passenger had moved over to the driver's seat and was starting up the truck. Before any commands could be given, she had driven off. At this point, the driver then broke away from Officer Huey and ran from him. After a short foot pursuit by Huey, while trying to relay the car information to the 911 dispatcher and other officers, the driver was tackled and arrested. In the meantime, a vehicle pursuit had ensued with other officers and the truck in which 3 roadblocks were ignored by the now female driver. The owner, in the meantime, said he really did not know the female and wanted to report his truck stolen by her. The truck eventually did stop, however, officers had to enter the truck through the windows to apprehend the female driver. It was determined that this was her 5th driving under suspension charge, and she was also determined to be intoxicated. A loaded gun was also found in the truck that the owner was charged with. For moral support and understanding that we all have those days, and amazed that you got 2 DUIs in one stop, the Shawnee Police Department is proud to present the Dag-Nabbit Award to Corporal Kevin Huey. You know, through doing these awards, you have to look up a little bit of research, and I was talking to some of the officers, and I called Kevin on the phone, and he was cool about it, and to do this award. And I was talking to Cody Gibson, and Cody and I were laughing because Cody said, we felt so sorry for Kevin because when the pursuit was going down, Kevin was still with the guy that ran and arrested and everything, and the pursuit went right by Kevin. So Cody said Kevin was standing there like, there goes my pursuit. Chief Russell Franz would like to now come forward to give 2 other special awards.
Last year, we started 2 special awards. These incidents, this first one, thank goodness we didn't have very many incidents this past year. A couple years ago, we had 10 barricaded subject incidents in 1 year, and we're very fortunate. We've received, a lot of our officers have gone through the FBI hostage negotiator training, and so this is a negotiation award for those officers that are put through the stress of having to do negotiations and talk people down out of serious situations. So this award was started last year. It was named after George Stafford. He talked the subject down into coming out for a cheeseburger and a banana milkshake, and was able to apprehend the subject for taking a hold of this. So this year's cheeseburger and banana milkshake award for their negotiation skills goes to Corporal James Wood. James? The second award that we started up is special meaning to me. Everybody kind of finds their niche in law enforcement. Well, when I was working the streets, I loved to work narcotics. I loved doing search warrants. There's not anything more fun than I can think of is to have a piece of paper in your hand signed by a judge that says you can go kick somebody's door in. So I get a kick out of that. And so this is called and then when I was working the streets, a narcotics investigator nicknamed me the Shark for working narcotics. So we've invented the Shark Award for excellence and initiative in investigating narcotics. And this year's recipient is Corporal Austin Bazell for his work in narcotics.
And now for a life-saving award, would Corporal David Carpenter please come forward? On July 26, 2013, at approximately 7 p.m., Corporal David Carpenter was assisting area law enforcement officers with finding a fugitive west of Shawnee. Trooper Dennis Dickens, a veteran pilot with the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, was assisting from the air with the manhunt. Trooper Dickens observed the suspect from the air and began pointing down to the suspect to show the officers on foot. As he was pointing down from the plane at about 80 feet off the ground, the plane appeared to have some type of mechanical problem, and the plane crashed into a pasture. Corporal Carpenter, along with Pottawatomie County Deputy Jason Holisek and Major Jody Opella with the Citizen Pottawatomie Police, ran approximately 100 yards across difficult terrain in full duty gear before arriving at the crash scene. With the assistance of the other two officers, Corporal Carpenter pulled Trooper Dickens from the wreckage and took him to safety about 40 yards from the burning plane. Corporal Carpenter's actions in saving a man's life are to be commended. And you can imagine there's much more to this story to be commended. For outstanding and superior performance and for actions above and beyond the call of duty, a man's life was saved. For bringing favorable recognition to himself, the City of Shawnee, and the Shawnee Police Department, and for saving a human life, the Shawnee Police Foundation and the Shawnee Police Department are proud to award Corporal David Carpenter the Life Saving Award. Now for the last three annual awards of the evening. The first one is for the 2013 Sentinel of the Year. These volunteers in police services, VIPs as they're known, are registered with the International Association of Chiefs of Police, and since inception to the end of the 2013 year, They collectively donated 4,243.5 hours of time, equaling $74,218.81 worth of man hours. If you add this year's hours that have been volunteered up to this point, there are well over $85,000 donated to the Shawnee Police Department and to the citizens of this community. This year's Sentinel of the Year is Miss Wanda Howard. Sentinel Wanda Howard has been a member of the Shawnee Police Department Sentinel Program since May 10, 2012. The Shawnee Sentinel Program is a volunteer program chartered with the National Volunteers and Police Services, or VIPS program, through the International Association of Chiefs of Police. Sentinel Howard has proven herself to be a devoted volunteer to the City of Shawnee and to the Police Department's volunteer program. She first started volunteering a couple of days a week, but that grew to volunteering 4 days a week with the city's municipal court. Her duties consisted of managing the citizen customers of the court while waiting in the lobby. She would assist the court staff in calling out names, answering questions, and just maintaining general decorum within the lobby of City Hall. She also conducted a much-needed reorganization and alphabetizing of the city's warrant files. Sentinel Howard also volunteers as the Sentinel Program Secretary, taking minutes at every meeting or training session. Sentinel Howard can be seen at most traffic safety checkpoints, assisting the officers of the Shawnee Police Department in any way she can. Sentinel Howard has volunteered a total of 794 hours to the Sentinel program. This is equivalent to donating a total of $13,887.06 of her time to the City of Shawnee Police Department. Sentinel Howard is genuinely dedicated to helping the police officers of our community. For outstanding service and for bringing favorable recognition to herself, the City of Shawnee, and the Shawnee Police Department, and for honorable service to the citizens of Shawnee, the Shawnee Police Foundation and the Shawnee Police Department are proud to award Sentinel Wanda Howard with the 2013 Sentinel of the Year Award. The next award is for the Civilian Employee of the Year. Behind the scenes, there are a number of people working to support the officers in the fight against crime. Their service is invaluable and greatly appreciated. And the 2013 Civilian Employee of the Year is Ms. Teresa Brown. Ms. Teresa Brown has been a member of the Shawnee Police Department since February 1978. Ms. Brown started her employment 36 years ago with the City of Shawnee as a 911 dispatcher. In 1990, Ms. Brown transferred to the Criminal Investigation Division as a division secretary, where she remains today. As the detective secretary, Ms. Brown is instrumental in a number of support services. Ms. Brown's work includes report entry in the computer system and hard copy filing. She sets appointments with the victims and witnesses for the detectives and acts as a liaison between the Criminal Investigation Division, other law enforcement agencies, and the District Attorney's Office. Ms. Brown performs daily tasks of ordering supplies for the division, as well as answering the phones to consoling victims and witnesses, some to the police department, to assist with cases. Ms. Brown keeps the division running by taking care of the details and making certain the detectives are free to devote their time to cases being worked. Ms. Brown has provided continuity over the years, breaking in newly assigned detectives and new technology while maintaining normal operations. For outstanding service and for bringing favorable recognition to herself, the City of Shawnee, and the Shawnee Police Department, and for honorable service to the citizens of Shawnee, the Shawnee Police Foundation and the Shawnee Police Department are proud to award Ms. Teresa Brown with the 2013 Civilian Employee of the Year Award. The final and most anticipated award of the evening is for the Officer of the Year. Would Corporal J. Keene, 2012 Officer of the Year recipient, please come forward to assist in the presentation of this award. The 2013 Officer of the Year is Corporal Andrew Terry. Corporal Andrew Terry has been with the Shawnee Police Department since September of 2008. Corporal Terry is currently assigned to the Uniform Patrol Division, working the midnight shift. He is consistently recognized through the evaluation process as a hard charger with high productivity. He continues to be very active in the enforcement of illegal drug offenders and was the first recipient of the Police Department's Shark Award in 2012. Because of his expertise in this field, co-workers often seek his advice and leadership. Corporal Terry's leadership skills are also used as a field training officer and instructor and as the department's Honor Color Guard commander. Corporal Terry is also involved with the community. He has met with and spoken to elementary students in local schools about the importance of seatbelt safety and how to contact the police in emergencies. He volunteered in search and rescue while off duty with the May 19th tornado that devastated the Shawnee area, as well as being recognized for volunteering that very next day with the May 20th tornado that went through Moore, Oklahoma. In 2013, Corporal Terry went above and beyond in helping a fellow Shawnee police family whose 2-year-old daughter was diagnosed with stage 5 bilateral Wilms tumors. Corporal Terry coordinated numerous fundraisers locally and across the state to assist with medical costs through newspapers, magazines, and radios with bracelets and a 5K run. His leadership, whether at work or off to the Shawnee community, has its citizens is exemplary for outstanding and superior performance and for bringing favorable recognition to himself, the City of Shawnee, and the Shawnee Police Department, and professional service to the citizens of Shawnee. The Shawnee Police Foundation and the Shawnee Police Department are proud to award Corporal Andrew Terry with the 2013 Officer of the Year Award. For closing remarks, I would like to introduce Shawnee Police Chief Russell France.
Mr. Browning, could I have you come forward, please? I want to take this time. I'd like to take this time to thank you for being with us tonight, and I appreciate all that you do for law enforcement throughout, not only here, but across the United States. And we thank you for your service and your inspirational messages to us. So with this, here's our department coin. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief. It's, you know, if an individual doesn't have what it takes to put a uniform on and do what professional law enforcement officers do, then they must find a way to serve in their own way. And I found my way, and it's so much a blessing to be a part of a family of professional law enforcement officers all across the United States. It's a high calling, and I promise you that I would never discredit you in any way. Thank you for letting me be a part of you. Thank you.
I'd like to take this time to thank all of you for attending tonight. If you've noticed, kind of tonight's theme, the underlying theme tonight has been service. The officers and civilians, the volunteers of the police department are here to serve this community. A lot of times you live your daily lives and don't think anything about what's going on, but you've heard tonight some of the great and courageous acts, some of the funny acts, but that's that dedication and hopefully that servant attitude that we have to this community. And I want to say thank you all. I want to say thank you to the Police Foundation for making this night possible. They are great supporters. Once again, if you find it in your heart, please donate to the Police Foundation. Some of the equipment that you see around the room, they've provided or assisted with. Some of it is your taxpayer dollars at work. All the equipment and all the officers, the civilian staff, and the volunteers are here to serve you, the citizens of Shawnee. So once again, I thank you. The citizens of Shawnee are a great support to this agency. So thank you very much. Have a great night and God bless. Look around at the equipment. It is your equipment. It's your taxpayer equipment. There is also certificates for the officers for excellence in shooting at this front table. Feel free once again to walk around, look at your equipment, visit with the officers, and thank you once again. Let me put out a shout to the sheriff. Thank you, Sheriff. He volunteered his deputies to work the streets tonight so that most of the officers could attend this dinner. So thank you again, Sheriff Lee.